Come on in, bestie. Welcome to StoryPod, where we do the doing of story development together. Brought to you by Creative BFF.
All right. Hello. Listen. You cutie patootie, I'm so happy to be with you again today. Thank you so much for joining me for the StoryPod podcast. My name is Ashley. Okay. If you have a story question that I can answer here on the podcast, please feel free to shoot me an email at ash@creativebff.com, or you can go to my website, creativebff.com. Send me a message in the contact section. Okay. Now, before we really get started here, okay, I have a cold. Okay. I don't know why I had such a gentle, okay. So you're going to hear it in my voice. I may also be mildly loopy. Okay. The okay though is going to get on my nerves. I'm going to try to use other words than okay. But if you hear me sniffing, please forgive me. I'm also going to see if I can be a little more efficient with my words. We're going to see if that works, just so that I could try to record this episode without having to stop to blow my nose or to sneeze. Although I cannot guarantee that I won't be taking some deep breaths, clearing my throat a little bit, maybe a little cough here and there off to the side. You know what I'm saying? But with all that being said, now that we're here, now that you know the state of my body, okay, let's answer a question from Reddit, because you have not sent me your story question yet. What are you doing, girl? Don't you know I want to help you make your story the best it can possibly be? Why won't you let me help you? Okay. In the meantime, let's go ahead and read this question from Reddit. It is from the r/character development subreddit, and the title is Character Arc Progression Issues by Dash Crispy. Okay. So, super quick summary. My story, Unveiled, is essentially about mutants who are either persecuted or exploited. It follows the life of Kaiden, an unveiled boy mutant who was taken from his family for a government project that's intent on raising the perfect weapons. This project is nicknamed Mira. In Project Mira, there are 3 other kids. Each of the 4 kids in Project Mira are regarded as limitless, a rare type of unveiled that have the highest level of growth potential of all other unveiled. The kids of Project Mira have been taken away from their families at ages 6 and 7 and are being raised at Greenhouse, quote unquote, an off-the-grid safe house. By age 12, Kaiden, being rebellious, runs away from Greenhouse, gets taken in by a family, and stays with them for 3 months before getting caught and returns back to Greenhouse. By age 14, orphaned, unveiled children are required to participate in an unveiled called the Citadel under the UAD, Unveiled Affairs Division. While other unveiled children may volunteer, often pressured by their families, it serves as a way for them to quote unquote serve their country. Project Mira has been training at Greenhouse since they were little, but they are still sent to the Citadel where they continue their training. When and how and why Project Mira, Kaiden, Elijah, Jae-yoon, and Lydia get to the Citadel, that's giving me problems. Just figuring out how to write it and make it sound natural and believable. So, I had to read this question a couple of times, and there's obviously quite a bit of information that's missing, and I'm not shading the asker of the question. It's just, for efficiency's sake and for brevity's sake, I'm sure they cut out a lot of information, but some of that information probably would kind of help direct the answering of this question. So I may look off to the side because it helps me to reread things as I'm answering. So off the top of the dome, the asker of the question does not give a specific age that the characters are at, either I don't know if we are starting the story with them being sent to the Citadel, or if the story is starting when they're younger and being taken away. That might determine some things. So I don't know if they are still 12, because the only other age mentioned was Kaiden running away at 12, right? There are 3 ages mentioned: when they're taken, 6 and 7 years old; when Kaiden runs away, which is 12; and then overall at age 14, orphaned mutants are required to participate in the Citadel, which I am assuming is sort of like a military thing. It sort of sounds like it could be a contest, but since it is a way for them to serve their country, that kind of, to me, leans more in like you're serving in the military of some sort. So I'm not sure. So that's another question. I don't know if what is the structure of the Citadel? What is the purpose of the Citadel? What do they do at the Citadel? Because now they're being, they're going to be continuing their training, Project Mira, right? So I'm going to work under the assumption that the Citadel is some sort of army force, right? That's made up of orphaned mutants first and foremost, but then other mutants can come and join as per the author's as per their question, right? So off the top of the dome, let's assume that the kids are 14. Okay, so let's assume that it's been 2 years since Kaiden ran away and was dragged back, right? One that could just be purely one reason is they're 14 years old, and every orphaned unveiled is required to serve in the Citadel, even though maybe they're not technically orphaned because they were taken from their parents. They are basically operating as orphans. They're not living with their parents. They've been at the greenhouse pretty much most of their lives, right? They remember more about the greenhouse probably than they do about their families. So the easiest answer is they are of age and they are required to go participate in the unveiled Citadel, the Citadel. Secondarily, it could also be that there is whoever is training them at the greenhouse, whoever's in control of that, whatever that program looks like. It could be that, okay, they want to test their strength outside of the bubble now, because they've been living in this bubble, right, of the greenhouse. Pretty much only themselves and whatever testing and training they're undergoing at the greenhouse, right? So now it's like, let's have some real world testing. And that could be very fun. This could be a very fun moment for them, right? So now we're going to put them in a larger population of other unveiled mutants and potentially having, pitting them against other threats to the country, right? Whatever those might look like, or even if it's not like other nations or other armies that are threatening the country. It could just be they are some sort of police force. They have to do that kind of thing, right? They are military, or they're being trained as military things, and they do the other stuff that militaries are called to do, right? So it could be that now that they need to go to the next level in their training, and that requires them to be around other mutants. Those seem to be two very simple answers. It could also be that the greenhouse somehow is no longer going to be in effect. It's no longer going to be a thing. Maybe it was defunded. Maybe there was a suspicious attack on the greenhouse. Maybe, I don't know if the greenhouse is somehow connected to the government or the UAD, Unveiled Affairs Division, if they're connected to, if they know about the greenhouse. So that would sway kind of how this would go also. But It could be that the greenhouse is shutting down or was violently overthrown or was destroyed in some way. They don't know their families. They have very minimal, I'm trying to see, was there any memories? I don't know, but you know, they don't really have a home to go to if the greenhouse is eliminated. So, you know, it could be that they go of their own volition to the Citadel, or it could be that somebody from the Citadel or a little detachment, a general or something like that from the Citadel, comes to the greenhouse specifically to be like, y'all are coming over here. So a lot of these answers will depend on what is the logic of the world, what is the logic of the government, what is the logic of the UAD, Unveiled Affairs Division. How do all of these things affect the greenhouse and what the greenhouse is doing? What is the function of the Citadel? And what age are these kids at? So if they're just 12, they wouldn't necessarily be of age to be recruited for the Citadel yet. So it might have to be something that's more like either they were, you know, whoever their handler or their trainers are specifically wants them to go to the Citadel, so sets that up. The UAD comes to get them specifically, even though they're too young for that. You know, I think that there was another idea that I had, but I think that I may have either already said it or I cannot remember. So depending on their age, if they're not of age yet, then, you know, there would be other extenuating circumstances that would factor into that. Right. So I think that it could just be, if you want it to be natural and believable, I'm looking back at the question again, it could be that the trainer wants them to go. And I don't know if that's too simple for your story. Again, you know, all of the other characters, the world logic, blah, 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 all of that stuff is going to determine what the answer to this is. Is a simple answer for why they go, is that good enough for your story? Or does there need to be something that actually has ramifications in the story moving forward? Because, for example, something like the greenhouse being eliminated or destroyed or defunded under mysterious circumstances is something that could potentially have ramifications or plot points and conflict and things like that in the story later on. Or if it's just we're just old enough to go, and now you're going to go to the Citadel because we want to put you in a different group of people, a different population. We want to throw you in a different pond to see how you swim. And it's just as simple as that, and there's nothing else behind it. That could be good enough. It just depends on what your story needs. And because I don't know all of these other questions, I'm going to go ahead and call that question answered, but I would be interested to hear what some of your ideas would be for why these exceptional mutants would be sent to the Citadel. Why would they be sent to the Citadel? Whether they're too young or whether they are of age, or maybe they're a little bit older by this point. So anyway, listen, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the podcast. I am absolutely going to go blow my nose right now and drink some tea because we're getting a little scratchy. Okay? We're getting a little scratchy in the voice box. So with that being said, girl, listen, have a great rest of your day. It's always a pleasure to be with you for a moment, to do some story brain. So do some reps on that story brain, girl. Listen, talk to you next time.